Happy Monday, everybody. So this is Monday's market update. Hopefully everybody here in Vegas enjoyed phase one opening. Now, that came a week early. Original phase one was supposed to be May 15th. It turned out to be May 9th because the way we flattened the curve. So this was the first weekend. Now, phase one meant that 50% occupancy. Restaurants were allowed to open, but it had to be at 50% occupancy. Outdoor malls were allowed to open. Indoor malls were allowed to open for curbside pickup. And so for those my friends over in Green Valley, downtown Summerlin, you're good to go. Fashion shows still closed. I believe the Charleston outlets are now open. However, noted from several people I know who work on the outlets, not all stores are open because you have the choice to not open. If you're not ready to open, you don't have to. If you don't feel safe, or you don't feel like you're ready, or you feel like, why am I going to staff my people for 50% capacity, or why am I going to open up if the demand isn't there? Some of these owners are actually letting their employees just collect the unemployment because not knowing the demand means they probably be working 15 hours a week, or may not be able to give them hours to make it worth coming back to work. So that's the thing about that. Now, when the announcement came, I thought it was pretty funny that the governor had to specifically say brothels and strip clubs are not opening in phase one. Pretty sure no other governor will get to say that, or will need to say that anywhere in the country. So viva Las Vegas, viva Nevada. Now to the housing market. The April numbers came out, and as predicted, the number of sales dropped because it was already dropping in March. Now, if you remember in March, when the March numbers came out the first week of April, you saw a whole lot of people talking about, a recession doesn't necessarily mean a housing crash, and they're not wrong. But people's last recession that they remember was a massive housing crash. So that's the reason when they had to reassure people that doesn't mean that. But does that mean the same thing now? Depends on unemployment. A huge factor. People ain't got jobs, and yeah, I expect the housing to take a dip. But because because the closings were not permanent, they're temporary with phase opening, then people expect their jobs back or expect to work. Not all of them. It's starting to look like a lot of people are not going back to work, but the jobs are still coming back. We're not going to sit at 20-something% unemployment. That's just not going to happen with the strip slowly opening and with the restaurants and businesses slowly opening. So the average sales price came out. End of March, it was 319 and change, almost 320, which is higher than the Vegas average ever. Highest ever was 315,000 in 2006. We all remember what happened after that. Obviously, the housing crash caused that to drop. But year over year, the highest was 315 in 2006. The following year, when the market was already tumbling down, average sales price, 309. So not a big drop. It was the year after, the year after, the year after that caused it to go down. Here, it shows the same trend. Our average sales price went from 320, almost 320, to 310. But year over year, April 2019 was $300,000. April 2020 was $310,000. And I foresee the average sales price drop was because of the lockdown. Now, the lockdown is slowly being lifted, and it is my hope that, we continue phase opening, that our numbers and infected don't go up, causing us to slow down in our phase opening. We opened up a week early. It's a pretty big deal, from May 15th to May 9th. Our next phase two is supposed to be the end of the month, the end of May. It is also our hope that a week early on phase two, and perhaps phase three, whatever that is. I have no idea. As much as I've looked everywhere, I really can't figure out where phase three is supposed to happen. I think it's based on how many people are not getting sick or not getting infected, or how well we're doing as a community with social distancing and maintaining the rules of whatever rules are put out there, so we can have our numbers flattened out. Now, with the average sales price, I believe it's going to remain strong because of demand. Before the lockdown, we had strong demand. Our inventory, which was a couple thousand, based on days of supply, which means that how many days before we're zero. In other words, if no listings hit the market, how many days before we have no homes left for sale. It was in a seller's market, which was less than 2 months. It was roughly 47 days. And people tried to follow that pretty strongly, but we all know that wasn't going to show up at the end of March. That was premature numbers. It wasn't going to show. We had a lot of fallouts, but the average sales price wasn't going to be affected yet, and it still won't be really showing up year over year. Now, month to month, you can break it down, but what matters is year over year. So the demand currently, our supply is still less than 3 months. So for those of you waiting for a buyer's market, that number is looking at 5 months. Once we start hitting 5 months worth of inventory, then we can start looking at a swing on the buyer's market. But for now, it still sits at a seller's market. Now, that doesn't mean that a seller can demand a price much, much, much higher than the actual comps. So I would look closely at that, at what's sold, and closer to comparable values on other homes that sell. So that's the only way you're really going to determine what's happening in the market. But essentially right now, the market is extremely stable. The lenders have stabilized. There was a lot of uncertainty in the first 4 to 6 weeks, and now it's kind of stabilized. Speak to your lending professional how it's kind of calmed down, underwriting guidelines. The only thing they got to figure out now is what to do with people who want to buy a house that went into forbearance. Even that's already being resolved slowly, and they're figuring that out coming out of this lockdown. So happy hunting to the buyers out there. Good luck to all the sellers out there. The market is just as strong as it was before the lockdown. During the lockdown, it's still pretty strong, and we expect it to remain strong after the lockdown. We expect purchases and actual sales to drop. That's normal with the unemployment currently where it's at. However, we expect the average sales price to either year over year to be up year over year, or more than likely remain flat based on all the statistics and the numbers that are showing up currently. As May numbers come through, we're really going to find out what June numbers, which is the peak of the buying season, June, July, these numbers are going to start coming in, and we'll see what that does to the market, and then I'll run through them and see how accurate my predictions were. But to be honest, it's unknown at this time. No idea, just got to run through the numbers, give you guys the numbers that come out as they come out, and from there we can make it, we can make an educated guess as to what's happening next. All right, guys, happy hunting. Good luck.